How's it hanging, guys? Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and if you're a carrier like Verizon that had a really successful device like the Motorola Droid X, what are you going to do where you're going to release a second one with better internals, but perhaps the same design? Here it is, the Motorola Droid X2 or Droid X Squared. It's going to come out in stores tomorrow. It's available now online for $199.99, and yeah, while it's a 3G only device, it's the most powerful device actually in Verizon's lineup. It has a 1 GHz NVIDIA Tegra 2 dual-core processor, and I don't want to spoil it for you, but in terms of speed tests, it's the fastest Verizon device available right now. 8 megapixel camera, no front-facing camera, but a nice QHD screen in place of that non-QHD screen on the Droid X. It's running Android 2.2 right now, upgradable to Android 2.3. So it's a pretty well-equipped device, but the question remains, you know, with the Thunderbolt, the Revolution, the Droid Charge, is it better to go with a lower-spec 4G phone or go with this really high-end dual-core device that can't take advantage of 4G? We're going to find out that and more in the review. But first, special thanks to our guys at Best Buy. They've hooked us up with a bunch of smartphones that we're giving to you in the One Paw Bandit game. So when you go to Best Buy Mobile, you walk out working, you get this, they'll help you set up your email, they'll help you set up your web, they'll help you set up everything. So when you walk out, you're working. But enough of that, let's get into the review. Is this the device to have? Should you go back 3G? Or should you go with a 4G device? We'll find out. So when you have a really successful model of something, apparently the thing to do is release the exact same looking device with upgraded internals. At least that's Verizon's strategy with the Motorola Droid X2 or Droid X Squared. I'm not quite sure. You know, the press materials look like Droid X2, but if you look here, it's obviously squared. So I'm going to say Droid X2, but if it is Droid X Squared, forgive me. Now you'll see some minor differences right out of the gate. But first of all, let me tell you a little bit about the device. Motorola Droid X Squared, Droid X2, coming tomorrow to retail stores for $199.99 with a 2-year agreement, available online right now. Now, design-wise, you know, you'll notice a couple of changes. It's mostly identical to the original Droid, save for a couple of little things like the Droid X Squared or Droid X2 text here, and you'll notice that there's no camera button on the side anymore. And you know how much I love my camera button, so it's pretty frustrating that the camera button's gone. It's one of those things where you're like, why did they eliminate that? What was the purpose? I mean, was it to save, you know, a penny per, or, you know, half a penny or a fraction of a cent, whatever. But I'm assuming that's what it was. I can't imagine any other reason why they would remove it. Maybe cosmetic. But there are a couple of differences. One, the camera button's been removed. Two, it's running a dual-core processor, 1 GHz NVIDIA Tegra 2 dual-core processor. So actually, it's Verizon's first smartphone to have a dual-core processor, which is interesting. It puts it in this weird position because if you look at the device lineup, this is actually the most powerful device on Verizon or in Verizon's lineup right now. You look at the Thunderbolt, the Revolution, and the Charge. Revolution comes out tomorrow as well. And they all have 4G, but none of them have dual-core processors. So when you look at like a quadrant standard score, you're using the device for the raw power. The Droid X2 is the one to get. That said, it's not a 4G device. It still is stuck on 3G only. But you have to decide, is the trade-off worth it? Should you go 4G, slower device, or faster device, slower internet connectivity? 8 megapixel camera as well. No front-facing camera this time around either, but a decent 8 megapixel camera on the back. 720p video recording, which you can check YouTube, check the site if you want to see the sample video of that. It's running Android 2.2 as well, and it says upgradable, and I kind of get a kick out of this because it says Android 2.2 upgradable to Android 2.3. That's like me saying Aaron Baker runs 0.5 miles per hour, theoretically runs 27 miles per hour. Well, that's all well and good, but you know, it's clear that I don't run 27 miles per hour, so something to keep in mind. You know, it's upgradable to Android 2.3 though, and I'm hoping at some point it will be upgraded, at least in the near future, because the Droid X, the original device, gets it starting this Friday. So the rollout begins for the original Droid this Friday. I imagine this one will get it in a couple of weeks. It does have a revised build of Moto Blur as well. So it's Android 2.2, and you notice this different look on Moto Blur. Excuse me. You'll notice the dock is a little bit different. You'll notice the color scheme is a little bit different as well. You have this blue color scheme now, blue and kind of this lighter blue down here. And you'll notice the menu is different as well. Up here you have a shortcut to the market, and you have all apps, and you can organize your apps by all apps, recent, downloaded, or you can add a new group, and you can call it Apps I Love, whatever. Save the group, and then you can put apps that you use frequently or apps that you love, which I imagine is what you would put in that if you name the group Apps I Love. Yeah, that's probably a stupid question on my part. But you get the idea. Some little changes like that, and you'll notice some differences just across the board, and we'll get to those. You know, as we get to those, I'll point those out. You'll see things like the 3G signal indicator difference, some minor changes. The text is a little bit smaller, some little things like that. Nothing too big, but it is a welcome improvement. You know, I never minded the Droid X the Moto Blur that was on the Droid X. It was kind of a toned down version. I think they called it Motorola's applications platform as opposed to full-on Moto Blur. This is a little bit more in your face, but still they've done a pretty decent job with it. You can see down at the bottom you have 4 little dock-like icons that can be changed. These 3 can be changed. I'll show you. When I click on one, you see plus marks pop up. I can drag one down and replace it if I so desire. Of course, menu can't be changed. Now the design, like I said, no huge difference here. You have micro USB charging port and HDMI port over here on the left side. You have your lanyard hole down here at the bottom, and then over here your volume rocker, and then this little hump that we know and love from the Motorola Droid X in the past to symbolize the camera. 3.5mm headphone jack on the top, power button, and then, like I said, 4.3-inch display. Now, what I was saying at the beginning, the display has been improved. It's Motorola's QHD display, so it is a higher resolution display. I think it's a nice display. The interesting thing, and the camera's probably not going to show this the way I'd like it to, but it does seem a little bit pixely to me. Now, keep in mind, I've been working with the Galaxy S2, the iPhone 4, several devices with just phenomenal displays. So be it Super AMOLED Plus or Retina display, this does pale in comparison just a little bit to those. You can see the pixels. There is a little bit of a difference there. So something to keep in mind, but you still have your physical capacitor, or your physical buttons down there at the bottom as well. Menu, home, back, and search. So design-wise, very similar. And then, of course, and I could be totally wrong. I don't have an original Droid X with me, but I swear that this Verizon little area around it with the logo is blue on this one, like a dark shade of blue, whereas it was black on the original device. So I could be wrong. I don't have the other one with me, but that's just what I remember. So out of the box, you get a couple of pre-installed applications. Amazon Kindle, backup assistant. We'll scroll down through here. Let's Golf 2, messaging is Motorola. My Verizon Mobile, NFL Mobile, Need for Speed Shift, some stuff I've installed. You'll see Slacker. Let's go down through here. And then all the VCast stuff, VCast apps, VCast music, VCast videos, VZ Navigator, and then visual voicemail. An additional $2.99 per month to use Verizon's visual voicemail. So keep that in mind. They do kind of nickel and dime you on quite a few things. Now, one benefit to this that you don't see with something like the Revolution, it is a Google device. It's a Google branded device, so you're not stuck with Bing or anything like that, any of that foolishness out of the box. It does have Google out of the box. So we scroll over, which I think I removed it off the page. Full Google search capabilities, full Google Maps capabilities, no shenanigans, no tomfoolery like that. Everything is there. But we can go into some different places, like let's go to messaging, for example, and you can see, again, it goes back to little menu changes that are have taken place as a result of the new Moto Blur. You can see text messaging's blue, the arrow looks a little bit different, and then when we pop this up, bring it down here, and you can see the keyboard is just ever so slightly different. It's still that Motorola multi-touch keyboard a lot of people love, but you can see that the keys are just a little bit of a different shade, and it's a little bit brighter. So you may not notice that in the camera, but if you're coming from the original Droid, you play around with the Droid X2, or you buy it, whatever, you will notice the differences. So here's our keyboard. We have 2 different options. We have multi-touch keyboard and swipe, and then of course, like I said, you can see those influences of the new Moto Blur here with this blue menu. A couple of differences in little icons, like when there's a little waiting icon, it looks different. I'll see if I can find one and point it out to you. So we'll say the Quick Brown Fox is ready to play in the dirt. So we're going to go back here, change that, the Quick Brown Fox. Quick Brown Fox is ready to play in the dirt. So you can see, pretty easy to type on. One thing I have noticed, if I had one criticism about this device, and I don't know if it's just me or what it is, but I swear there's a little bit of a lag in the keyboard, whereas there was not on the original Droid X. I could blow through the keyboard like it was nobody's business. I feel like there's a little bit of a lag on this one for whatever reason. Thanks. Just little things, like I see little hang-ups, like these little spelling errors that are as a result of hang-ups that I did not see on the original Droid X. So it's 4.3-inch display, and not only is it 4.3 inches, but it's a long 4.3 inches as well. So let's go down here to settings, and let me auto-rotate that screen, turn that back on for you, bam, bam, and then you can see how spaced those keys are. So if you're somebody like me, it has big thumbs, you're president of the Fat Finger Club, it's easier, maybe a little bit easier for you to type over on this side. Ready to hang out. I don't know why it ready to hang. Quick Brown Did is ready to hang. So get the idea. Swipes your thing, pre-installed as well, so you have that out of the box. Now let's go into internet. You know, these are two popular ones I get asked a lot: the browser and the keyboard. Excuse me, browser and the keyboard. So we're going to go into PhoneDog.com. We'll load it up. And you know, it's interesting. I've often criticized Verizon's 3G network. It's traditionally very slow, but I've noticed that it's been pretty decent on the Motorola Droid X2. I don't know why that is, but it's just been a pretty decent experience between downloading apps or browsing the web or doing something like that. I've been pretty pleased across the board with it. So PhoneDog's loading up, and you can see like that. See that little icon right there? You'll notice that it's a little bit different from the way it looked on the original Droid. So it's a lot of those minor things that, you know, if you worked with Moto Blur, you're like me, you review this stuff for a living, you'll pick up on the little changes, whereas if you're new to it, you might not. So it is running Flash. I'm not gonna make that the pinch to zoom test. We're gonna wait till it loads for fairness. But you can see that ad running over there in the right corner for looks like Netflix or Windows Phone 7, one of the two. Yeah. So you can see loaded up now, and then you can see there's our pinch to zoom. So looks like a little bit of a lag, not too much, but you can see it was a little laggy there at the beginning. Now it seems like it's pretty responsive. Go over here. Yeah, you can see it's just ever so slightly laggy. Go back over here. Scroll down, see if we can zoom in on pictures so you can see. So you can see pretty responsive. I mean, there is a little bit of a lag from time to time, but then let's take a look. You know, you see the typical Motorola icons here. Let's go into Windows. That's what it looks like. So no like TouchWiz or HTC Sense where there's a port or a preview of the browser page. It's pretty ho-hum and plain Jane. If I open up a new window, open up Google, for example, let's say I want to go back to PhoneDog, you have to click there. There's no real exciting transition or anything like that. So some things haven't changed, but I think there's certainly some improvements in the overall colors of Moto Blur. I think the browser does a pretty decent job as well. So that was it in portrait. There it is in landscape. And go back and pinch to zoom. So reasonably fast, you can see, but there was a bit of lag at the beginning.